In this video, I'm going to discuss with you methods of crafting tension in your stories, and we're going to talk about Chekhov's gun, which is a theory kind of related to tension and kind of related to concise writing. And I thought I would do all of that over a nice cup of chai. Not quite right. So let's start with Chekhov's gun theory. Chekhov was a playwright, and he had this theory that he repeated in multiple letters to his colleagues, that if you're going to put a gun on the stage in scene 1 of a play, that it should be fired within the next couple of scenes, because it's important that you keep your promises. So think about that in terms of a story, or in terms of being an audience member, and you see that gun on the stage in the first scene. You know intrinsically that that gun is going to go off, because otherwise why would the gun be there? It creates a subconscious layer of tension in you as an audience member or a reader. Still not quite right. So the concept of Chekhov's gun can be played out in a couple of different ways. Partly, you can consider that a method of making sure that you only ever put things in your story that are about the story, that you don't go off on tangents or include information that are unrelated to your storyline. You can also see that as a method of crafting tension, because if you consider that you are putting a gun in the opening scene, or a murderer, or something that might scare the reader or create some sense of tension in the reader in the first scene, then it's important that you realize that your reader is going to be tickled by that. And so anything that you do to kind of deflect from that gun, the smoking gun in the first scene, will allow the reader to focus on other more banal details while they are still being tickled by that gun. Still not quite right. So let's think about that in terms of a horror movie, because those are pretty simple to explain. So consider the opening scene of a horror movie. You see the killer, you see his boots, and they're tracking on the floor, and he walks down, he walks across the floor, and he opens the door, and he goes inside of it, and he closes it just part way. And next you see through this tiny crack in the door as a woman walks in with a bag of groceries, and she sets her groceries down on the table. And she's talking on the phone to her friend, and she's pulling out carrots, and she's pulling out her milk. And meanwhile, we are looking through the eyes of that killer, through that sliver in the door, at this woman who is just unpacking her groceries and talking to a friend. We are experiencing tension in that moment because we know something that the reader doesn't, but also because we have been asked to focus on something simple, peaceful, and normal, such as the woman unpacking her groceries. So let me just add a little bit of vanilla to my chai here. See if that'll get it right. So the concept there is that if you're going to place something in your story that creates a tickle or a feeling of tension, something that a problem or barrier or an item that could cause conflict in the story, that you can draw it out by just reminding the reader that it's part of the scene or the background, and then move toward focusing on other things, things that are less related to that concept or idea or that smoking gun. Oh, now that's perfect. Okay, so that's our lesson. Chekhov's gun and crafting tension. Thanks.